Hey guys, it's Luke, and today's video is an in-depth guide to positioning in Apex Legends. Positioning is one of the most important aspects for success in Apex, now more than ever in Season 10. Most players have decent aim, movement, and for the most part have the mechanics down by this point. One of the main factors separating average players and good players is positioning. Having good positioning and knowing how to position yourself in fights is one of the key areas you should work on for improvement in becoming a better player no matter your skill level. In this video, I will be going over every aspect of positioning and how you can improve your decision making when it comes to it. That includes knowing when to reposition, knowing how to reposition, identifying power positions, how positioning can help you take less damage in fights, and some other small things that should really help you. With that said, let's get straight into the video. The first step to improving your positioning is making sure you know what makes a good position and a bad position. Obviously, the situations you are in are going to be different every time, and I can't point out every aspect of what makes a position good or bad, but I can explain 3 big things that go into making a power position. A power position is simply a position where you or your team has an advantage over the enemy team or teams. The first big thing that creates a power position is cover. Cover is extremely important in any fight, and controlling the cover allows you to get damage on your opponents without taking any yourself. On my last video, I got some comments saying they wanted me to make a video about how they could dodge bullets and take less damage in fights. My answer to those people is that the best way to take as little damage in gunfights as possible is to utilize cover properly, mainly head glitches. A head glitch is a spot where the lower half of your body, your legs, and most of your character's torso is covered, but you can still shoot from the position. This makes your hitbox exponentially smaller while still allowing you to take shots at your opponent. All in all, it's a win-win, and there's no reason you shouldn't look for head glitches and use them. Even if you can't find a head glitch, cover can still make a power position. Anytime you can make your hitbox smaller than your opponent's, you have the power position. Even in 1v1s when the game is moving quickly, finding a spot like a hill or box to cover your body while you aim makes all the difference. In addition, how you play cover makes a sizable difference in how much cover it actually gives you. For example, playing a box like this. If you climb on the top of it, the correct way to play it would be to hang back near the back of the box, just enough so you can shoot. The incorrect way, which I see a lot of people do, would be to walk right up to the edge of the box. This gives you no advantage at all because your entire body is exposed. Conversely, if you're the one at the bottom of the box, the correct way to play it would be to hug as close to the box as you can, but not close enough that you can't shoot, because again, this covers up the most of your hitbox while still allowing you to get damage. The incorrect way would be to play far off the box, exposing yourself entirely. To wrap it up, cover and playing cover correctly is extremely important in not taking damage in fights, and is something that makes a power position. The next thing you want to consider when it comes to positioning is high ground. I'm not going to be another YouTuber that tells you to always get high ground, and if you have high ground, you automatically win. Instead, I'm going to explain when you want high ground, when you don't, and why it's useful. The reason you want high ground is because most of the time, it's the position that allows you to control the fight. It's hard to push a team on high ground, especially when they are pressuring you. Conversely, a team on high ground can push the team on low ground a lot faster and easier if they decide to. Most of the time, the team on height will dictate the way the fight goes, and the low ground team will be forced to go along with it. The other big advantage of being on height is that shooting down on your opponents will be a lot easier. Being on high ground allows you to get better angles on your opponents, and can even make their cover unusable. It also gives you a better chance of hitting headshots. Looking down on your opponents, the head becomes one of the bigger areas that you can hit. Also, it goes back to what I was saying earlier with cover and head glitches. Most of the time, shooting from high ground will naturally allow you to cover a lot of your character model. That means even if the players on low ground decide to shoot back at you, it probably will not be a favorable trade for them. Now let's talk about when you don't want high ground. There are two situations that cause the high ground to become the weaker position. The first is if it is vulnerable. If the high ground position has not a lot of cover, I would advise not to take it. This makes it vulnerable and easy to take damage when controlling it, kind of defeating the purpose anyways. I would also consider the high ground position vulnerable if there are several angles or ways of accessing it. These kinds of positions aren't always bad to hold, they're just risky. Having multiple access points and ways of being shot means your team will have to be very aware and check angles often. These spots can also fall apart quickly if there are multiple teams in the fight. The best thing is to realize how many attack points your position has, and then make the decision of whether you want to hold it or not. The other situation in which I consider high ground a liability position is if it makes you the center of attention. This mostly happens in endgames where a lot of teams are compressed together. Being on high ground will create a target on your back, which is not good. It makes it even worse because other teams try to get height for themselves, leading to you getting focused and targeted until there's nothing you can do but die. The last thing that creates a power position are chokes / the zone. This one is a little more self-explanatory, but I thought I should touch on it because it can make or break games. We've all been in the position where we had to get through a choke point on the map. The zone's on our back and there's a team keeping us out. In this case, the team holding would have the power position. This is one of the most annoying situations to be in, even if it's not a choke point. Being held in zone is a very tricky situation to get out of. My biggest advice is to check your map whenever a new zone is revealed. That way you can identify the choke points or points where you might get held in the storm. Then you can rotate early or avoid these areas altogether. If you want to be the annoying ones, you can become the team holding others out of the safe ring. It's one of the most powerful positions in the game, and one that can come just with awareness and planning. Now that you know what a power position is and the different kinds, I will be going over repositioning. That means this section of the video is dedicated to knowing how and when to reposition. The first and biggest red flag that you should reposition is if your enemy has a clear power position. Taking a fight against a team or player with a power position means that before you even start fighting, you're at a disadvantage. Again, recognizing power positions are useful because it allows you to know what fights you should and shouldn't take. Usually, when a team is in the power position, the best decision to make is just to run away and not fight unless they leave from where they are. If for some reason you do want to fight them, maybe they have worse armor than you, then you have two options. The first is to get them out of that position. Nades are the best way to get your opponents out of a power position. Just toss a few in the area and they should go scrambling. This is also the main reason I advise people to carry nades on them. The other thing to do when your opponents are in a power position is to move around and change your angles. Oftentimes, the angle or head glitch your opponent is using is only good from one or two sides. That means switching up the way you are pushing them from can leave them exposed and neutralizes their power position. However, be careful when you do this, because you'll have to reposition, which often means running out in the open. Try to play cover as much as you can and take a wide arc. Pros call this swinging. It's more commonly used at higher levels of play, because more teams camp and hold down power positions. The pros know it's one of the best ways to take out a team in the better position or take a team by surprise. They also go about it carefully and take their time. If you want to successfully overthrow a team on the better positioning, you can't just push straight in with blind force. You have to find different angles and find where they are vulnerable. I'm going to briefly take this moment to ask you if you could like and subscribe. They would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. At this point in the video, you should know when to reposition, how to identify the best positions, and the only thing left is how to reposition and actually control the power position. There are 3 main ways of repositioning, and of course I will be explaining all 3 in this video. The first is by using legend abilities. This is the most straightforward, and I bet everyone has done this without even knowing. Legends like Wraith, Pathfinder, Octane, and Horizon are positional legends by default. They have at least one mobile ability that you can use to quickly reposition yourself or your entire team. Whether that's using Pathfinder's zipline to get high ground, or Wraith's portal to get past a choke point, all of these legends provide useful assets when it comes to positioning. These abilities are not required though. You can still get good positioning by using a legend with no mobility whatsoever. What you should be doing is recognizing power positions ahead of time. Map knowledge is useful for this, but it's not needed. The best way to get a good position is by recognizing it early. Use the 3 main things I taught you earlier in the video to identify the advantageous position. This could be as soon as you see the squad you're fighting, or the moment the next zone is revealed. Even if it's just a small piece of cover or high ground, recognizing it's the better position and getting to it first can make a world of difference in the fight that's about to happen. The position you are in tells whether you control or react in a fight, and getting to the position where you're controlling is the best situation for you. All in all, taking action first is the best way to secure the power position. The last way to reposition is by pressure. This could be when an enemy team has the power position over you and you want to get out of that situation so they no longer have an advantage. The best way to take the pressure off you is actually to apply pressure on them. The first thing you can do is make the enemies as uncomfortable as you can. Throw grenades and take shots on them from a safe area whenever they pop their heads up. Eventually, you'll get enough damage they will be forced to heal. That's the time you can move to the next piece of cover and wait for them to peek you again. Be ready, and the moment you see them, shoot them. You can repeat the process as long as you need, and eventually you will get to safety. Or, just as often, the enemy team will realize it's not worth it and give up. It's important that you jump from cover to cover as quickly as you can, and make that your top priority. Don't worry about going in a straight line or directly to where you're trying to go. Just go to the next position you should be. It's equally important to be pressuring your opponents the entire time. Don't let them show themselves for a moment without you shooting at them. This helps you gain some control even while being in the worst position. This is also the best way to get out of a bad situation where the opponent has the power position, or in a spot you just want to get out of. That was the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. By this point, you should be able to find the better positioning in a fight, know how to get that position, know when to give it up, and know how and when to reposition. I encourage you to like and subscribe, and also to visit my channel. If you are interested in improving at anything in Apex, I've either made a video on it or will in the future. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and thank you for watching.